Henry has come back to Hong Kong after spending several years serving in the US military. Hoping to begin a career in teaching, he visits his old school Tak Chi Secondary School. The principal points out that he lacks teaching experience. However, after seeing a recommendation letter from a high-ranking official, the principal decides to hire him. Before Henry leaves, the principal warns him that the class he's been assigned is one of the most troublesome in the school. On the morning of his first day, Henry enters the classroom and finds it in complete chaos. Some students are asleep, others are singing, a few are playing video games, and several are even cooking. They continue cooking ramen on a portable stove, even after the teacher enters the room. They pay him no attention and carry on with what they're doing. Henry attempts to get their attention, but they act as if they can't hear him. He stops trying to redirect their attention and instead walks around the classroom, making remarks about what they're already doing. He advises the students who are cooking to cut back on the ramen, noting that it's high in sodium. Henry then walks over to a student named Zufa who's playing the ukulele and offers to help him with it. Likewise, he warns a student engrossed in video games about the potential radiation exposure from staring at the screen for too long. Once the students finally begin to pay attention, he introduces himself and writes his name and phone number on the board. The students burst into laughter, teasing him for his messy handwriting. One of the students calls his phone and tells him to leave the class, but Henry just laughs it off. The kids then go back to ignoring him and resume their previous activities. Fed up with the situation, Henry uses a rubber band and a piece of chalk to activate the fire sprinkler in the classroom. The students quickly scatter to avoid getting soaked. With their full attention at last, he formally welcomes them to his class.
Welcome to my class!
After class, 5 of the lowest-ranking students meet in the sports supply room to smoke. Jack, the leader of the group, has feelings for an A-grade student from another class. One of his friends catches him staring at her picture and mocks him. The group has a rivalry with the wealthy and entitled students from the school's basketball team. They enter the supply room and, as usual, mock Jack for being poor. Later, the basketball team practices while Jack and the group observe from nearby. Jack intentionally drops a bottle on the court, causing the team leader to trip, and the group laughs. However, the school's English teacher, Miss Liang, gives him detention. To escape detention, they prank her and quickly run away, while she is busy cleaning her desk. Meanwhile, the school's principal is worried as the education board plans to cut 20% of their annual funding. Members of the board come to the school for a tour to inspect how the funds are being spent. Meanwhile, Henry enters the classroom, not realizing that the students have set up a water bucket as a prank. However, his quick reflexes allow him to react faster than the falling bucket, and he manages to push it away. The students, who were ready to laugh at him, are left stunned. Henry asks Jack for his pack of cigarettes, already aware that he smokes. Then Jack hands it over without protest. Intrigued by what Henry plans to do, Henry then turns to Zufa and asks him to name the 3 main ingredients found in a cigarette. After answering the question correctly, Henry tells him he can skip class for the rest of the day. The whole class starts banging on their desks, demanding the same chance to skip class too. Once they quiet down, he hands each of them a cigarette and asks them to analyze its contents. Henry realizes that just talking about the health risks won't be enough to make them take it seriously. So instead, he engages them by asking about the consequences of smoking and explains how tar gradually builds up in their lungs. For the first time, the students focus on the teacher, genuinely interested in what he's teaching. When the bell rings, he asks them to hand back the cigarettes, and though hesitant, the students comply. Later that day in the cafeteria, the basketball team captain deliberately sticks out his leg, causing Jack's friend Bruce to trip. This sparks a heated argument between the two groups, which quickly escalates into a physical fight. They begin launching food and overturning tables, leaving the cafeteria in total chaos. Later, Henry is notified that 5 of his students have been temporarily suspended for initiating the fight. Henry spots Jack brawling with his opponent in the hallway and intervenes, urging them to calm down. Jack claims the school is biased, arguing that the wealthy students face no consequences. After school, Henry reviews the files of the 5 students to gather more information about them. The first student, Zufa, is the son of a Pakistani immigrant and faces constant discrimination due to his race. He is frequently accused of theft by the police in his neighborhood. Zufa's greatest desire in life is to become a musician. The second student, Dinan, has been a source of disappointment to her father ever since her birth, as he had always hoped for a son. Throughout her life, Dinan has tried to earn her father's respect, even going as far as cutting her hair short and playing with cars to give the impression of being a boy. Still, her father remains indifferent toward her, while showering her younger brother with love and treating him like royalty. Then, there are the bros, Bruce and Chris. Their mother abandoned them for another man when they were just children, which led their father to become an alcoholic. Growing up, the brothers had no one but each other to depend on. To escape from their harsh reality, Chris developed an obsession with video games. Meanwhile, Bruce took on a job at a grocery store, working hard to earn money and support the family. Lastly, Henry is unable to find any details about Jack's family background. In the next scene, Jack is shown working as a waiter at a restaurant when MMA gambler Gene Yang arrives with his business associates. While Gene Yang is distracted, Jack attempts to steal his expensive lighter, but gets caught in the act. Gene Yang's men rough Jack up while he checks Jack's ID. After realizing Jack is a student, Gene hands him some cash and offers him a job as their food delivery guy. Elsewhere, Henry visits Zufa's home and finds him fleeing from his father and his associates after being caught stealing a ticket. He initially helps Zufa escape, but upon learning the reason behind the chase, he sides with Zufa's father. Later, Henry and Zufa spend time together on a bridge. To encourage Zufa to pursue his passion, Henry joins a street band and starts singing. Moments later, Zufa gathers the courage to sing alongside him, his first time performing in public since being bullied at school years ago. Meanwhile, Bruce and Chris's father arrives home late as usual and demands that they go to the store to get him a beer. When the brothers refuse, he angrily tells them to leave his house. The next day, Henry meets with their father and persuades him to go to rehab for the sake of his son's well-being. Meanwhile, Danine's father gives her a bag of makeup and tells her to start acting more like a girl for once. Danine is enraged, feeling like she's never been good enough for him. Danine puts makeup on her younger brother and quietly sneaks out of the house with the car keys. Just as Danine is about to drive away in her father's car, Henry stops her at the perfect moment. He reminds her that driving without a license is illegal and offers an alternative. They then head to a go-kart racetrack to have some fun. Henry also invites her father to join, and they all race. During the race, the father and daughter show no mercy toward each other, pushing themselves to the limit until they eventually end up outside the track. Suddenly, Danine's go-kart is nearly hit by a vehicle, but she narrowly avoids the collision. Unaware of this, her father mistakenly believes she has been struck and cries out, mourning his daughter's death. Danine realizes that her father truly loves her and embraces him. The next day at school, Bruce and Chris, along with a group of students, are tasked with interviewing a recovering alcoholic at a rehabilitation center. To their surprise, the person they are asked to interview turns out to be their own father. The students ask him how his drinking began. He explains that he once loved his wife deeply, but when she left him during the hardest time of his life. As a result, he turned to alcohol and lost sight of the fact that he had 2 children who needed him. The man chooses not to reveal that Bruce and Chris are his sons, but by the end of the interview, he offers a heartfelt apology. The brothers, overwhelmed with emotion, break down in tears. Jack has begun working for the MMA bettor Chun Yang, who promises him a large sum of money to spike a fighter's drink before an upcoming match. Though hesitant, Jack feels pressured and ends up agreeing to the deal. On the day of the match, Chen Yang sponsors a fighter but secretly places a bet on his defeat. Jack attempts to drug the fighter's drink but gets caught in the act. Before Jack can expose Chun Yang, he's beaten up and locked inside a locker. Sometime later, Henry shows up and asks the fighters if they've seen his student around. The men tell Henry to go home, but Jack, trapped inside the locker, yells for help. Upon hearing this, Henry takes action, attacking the men and easily overpowering them. As the fighters step in, the situation intensifies, but Henry skillfully dodges their attacks. In the end, he knocks out their top fighter, who was supposed to compete in just a few minutes. In the next scene, they are at the hospital, where Henry receives treatment for his injuries. Jack attempts to expose the truth about Chen Yang, but he is quickly silenced. The news spreads on television, and Henry becomes known as the man who defeated a professional fighter to protect his student. His popularity at school increases, and the students begin to show him respect. They even stand up to welcome him into the class, a stark contrast to how they treated him before. A flashback reveals that Henry was once a prankster in his school days. He even threw water balloons at a student who was performing on the piano for the parents during an event. He ended up fighting the same student and broke his hand in the process. As a result, he was suspended for the fight, and shortly after, he had to fly to the States. Since then, the students started focusing in class and putting in effort for the upcoming college entrance exams. Everyone was doing well, except Bruce, who had developed a pill addiction. While Chris turned to video games to escape his family's issues, Bruce began using drugs due to his inability to stay focused. He performs poorly on the mock entrance test. Henry vows to help him, But as time passes, Bruce becomes increasingly depressed. Eventually, he jumps from the balcony of his house and is rushed to the hospital, where he falls into a coma. The media distorts the story, blaming the school and Henry for Bruce's actions. As a result, officials from the education board interview Henry and ultimately decide to revoke his teaching license. As Henry packs his things and prepares to leave the school, the students chase after him, begging him to stay. Though heartbroken by his departure, they resolve to do their best on the upcoming test to make him proud. From that day forward, they study twice as hard, determined to prove to the board that Henry is a great teacher. On the day of the test, Jack and all his classmates receive a message from Henry, asking them to meet him at the school. An hour before the exam, the students gather at the school only to realize that Jean Yang had tricked them into staying there, preventing them from reaching the exam hall on time. He did this to take a revenge on Henry. Soon after, Henry arrives at the school and discovers Jean Yang's plan. He frees the students and, with determination, fights off all of Jean Yang's men to protect them. Afterward, the students manage to escape and rush to the examination hall in time. As Henry and Jean Yang engage in their one-on-one fight, Jean Yang reveals that he is the same person Henry had thrown water balloons when they were kids. It's revealed that after Henry broke his arm, Jean Yang missed out on a major music competition. Ever since then, he hasn't played the piano and has held Henry responsible for destroying his dream. Henry tries to talk sense into him, but Jean Yang attacks once more. The two wrestle fiercely, each trying to gain control of a knife. In the end, Henry finds himself with the chance to finish him off, but he chooses not to. Instead, he sincerely apologizes for his past mistake and walks away. The students arrive at the examination hall just in time and successfully finish the test. A few weeks later, all the students pass with outstanding results. Meanwhile, Jean Yang begins playing the piano again, though he still has a long way to go before regaining his former skill. Bruce makes a swift recovery and vows to take the college entrance exam the following year. The principal is overjoyed when the board awards the school a 20% bonus in funding due to the students' outstanding performance in the entrance exam. Henry resumes teaching and pulls the fire sprinkler prank once again on a new group of students. And that's where the story ends. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also hit the notification bell to get updated on every video that we upload. Thank you and have a great day.